human DNA. It's based on, there's an area of science called taxonomy that deals with the categorization and classification of all living organisms. And like according to like 96% of biologists, right, this thing from fertilization is a human being.
Okay, so whole genetic code with diploid cell that has genetic code from the mother and the father is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that's what science would agree. So I don't see any problem with that. Would you disagree?
So basically, from a zygote onwards is what you're saying.
Yeah, the science would agree with me.
Okay, and
Absolutely.
that in conjunction with capacity for future consciousness.
Yeah, the potential, right? Like I find it like I think I think death itself like is like inherently harmful. And I think death is harmful because it's depriving a human being of their future experiences. I don't think death is harmful because they feel pain. I don't think death is harmful because they have a heartbeat. I don't think none of that is what makes death wrong. What makes death wrong is just stopping somebody from having these future experiences. And to me, for you to say, well, yeah, Divine, I care about this thing once it's there, but like a day before it's there, I don't give a shit about it. To me, I just don't see any other situation in life where we do that, where we say, yeah, I value this thing, but I don't value it like a couple of months before it's there.
I
At
mean,
least, at least for
that's a
me.
fundamental disagreement. But you said you think death is inherently bad, or you think life is inherently valuable. Was that your point?
I think death is like inherently like harmful to that human being because it's deprivation. I think deprivation is harmful.
Okay, so what about where is the harm in someone who is, let's say, non-existent? What harm is being done to that person?
Yeah, deprivation of future experiences.
Deprivation from future experience. Do you
Do you think
acknowledge
if you
that?
kill a baby before it's conscious, do you think you deprive that human being of consciousness?
Um, yeah, sure. But my point is that do you acknowledge that not all consciousness is actually good, or at least not all future experiences are inherently good?
Sure, but I don't have epistemic knowledge to their future experiences. I'm just gonna like go off of like a. I don't think in order for consciousness to be good, you have to have good conscious experiences. I just think consciousness itself, the human conscious experience, is good.
Okay, so let's say
Do you disagree?
that yeah. So would you say that let's say in a hypothetical, someone will exist either and they'll let's say experience constant pain for 80 years of their life, constant like terrible worst cancer, constant pain for 80 years of their life, or that person never existed at all. Would you then say that it's a better situation for them to experience constant pain for 80 years being tortured than have not existed at all?
No, so like as I already did state, I think consciousness itself is positive, but that doesn't follow that every single experience within the conscious experience is also positive. That doesn't follow.
But
Like
you
for
said that
example,
it's better. No, you
like
said
wait,
it's better
wait,
in
just
terms of
wait, no,
deprivation.
just wait, just for example, right? Let's say you were in a coma and I had a medication that could make you conscious again. I would say it is a positive thing to make you conscious again. Does that logically follow that then if let's say after I make you conscious, you go outside and get schmurdered and graped, does it follow that I think that the schmurder and grape were positive experiences? No, because it doesn't
That's not the
follow
point.
just
But you said that any that consciousness itself is better than deprivation of consciousness.
yeah, because itself consciousness is positive, but it doesn't follow that I think all experiences that happen during consciousness are also positive. That doesn't follow at all. Like, okay,
No,
I'll
I
give an
said that, but you
example.
didn't answer my hypothetical. So
Wait,
in that
no, like, wait,
situation, you
I'll
say
give
it's
an
better
example.
if
Wait,
they
let me give,
existed
let me,
for 80
wait,
years.
let me give an example. You have no epistemic knowledge, right? None. So you don't have access to the future. I'm in a coma right now. You have an injection which can make me conscious. You just jab it in my head. If you don't give it me, I'm never going to be conscious, right? You jab it in my head, okay? I wake up. Did you do something positive by restoring my consciousness?
Number one, I'd ask whether you had a signed a contract where you consent to that thing happening, like, or whether you signed a do not resuscitate type of document.
Let's say I didn't, but I was just in a coma.
So you said you didn't sign it. So you said that you
I,
would want to be.
I didn't do any. I didn't. So I didn't say yes or no. Like it's unknown. You just found me in a hospital. Yeah, and you wake me up, right? And you give me this needle. I would say you have done something positive. You have given me my consciousness back. Now, if I go outside and I get brutally schmurdered, it doesn't
I don't think that's
follow
inherently a
that.
good thing. I don't
But
necessarily
yeah,
think
but the
I'd
con.
argue
Let
with
me
you
let
on
me let me
both.
finish. Let me finish. It does not follow that just because a negative experience happened after your positive act, that means you think the negative act is also a part of that positive experience.
That's not what I'm saying. I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. But the point is that again, you didn't answer my hypothetical. Would you then say it's better to have 80 years of constant pain than not have ever existed at all? Is that the point you're making?
I think it would be better in this hypothetical where we have epistemic knowledge for the individual to not be born because they go through less suffering. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you acknowledge that in some cases deprivation of consciousness is preferable to having
So
a conscious experience.
I believe in some situations, even though, as I've already explained, you are still depriving a human of a positive thing, and that is consciousness, because we have epistemic knowledge of the later negative experiences. I would just say the negative experiences outweigh the positive. Therefore, there's going to be like it isn't reducing harm at that point. I would say there's actually more harm in like allowing the human to be conscious, at least from my understanding. But it does not follow then that it was bad to let the human be conscious. That doesn't follow. You can do a positive act onto somebody, even if this act leads to negative conclusions that follow after. But that
But
doesn't
then
negate that
again, I guess we're
the
arguing from
initial
different
experience is positive.
we're arguing from different like moral frameworks, as in like whether you're a consequentialist or utilitarianist. Again, consequentialists would see that it depends on the consequences, where someone else would say the consequences are relevant to the action. So again, if we just have a fundamental moral disagreement in the framework, then I'm not sure we can go from there.
Well, but I just think I just to explain it once more as well for the chat. What I'm basically saying is while I agree that like some positive experiences is some positive experiences can lead to negative conclusions after, this doesn't change the fact that the initial positive act you did is now negative. It doesn't make it negative. For example, let's say A on screen, I give him a cancer cure. Because I gave him the cancer cure, he goes outside and gets tortured. It does not follow that giving him the cancer cure was negative. That doesn't follow, right? Just because it led to some kind of further negative experience, that still wouldn't follow. And again, we don't have epistemic knowledge for the unborn. This is all like presupposing that like I know somebody's future. I would say, based on the reality where we don't know people's future, it's going to be more intuitive to allow people to have this future positive experience, aka consciousness. And if it does lead to some negative experiences, that is tragic. But ultimately, allowing them to be conscious was still a good thing. That's still a good overall.
I don't necessarily inherently place any value on just conscious experience myself, which you seem to.
You do. That's what gives. What you do, because that's what you give a human being moral consideration for when they're having a conscious experience.
Well, I'm talking about as in existence itself once there already exists. This is a separate point, but as in like past, present, and future consciousness, I do place value on. I was speaking in terms of another scenario. It's just a separate point which I was bringing up. But
I do want to ask you one more question because just to clarify, I do. What time is it? It's 9:49. Okay. I think we've gone over a lot of points, but I do have one more question quickly, and I don't mind. You can also have a closing statement after. But one more little hypothetical. Have you ever heard of a child called Jackson Buell?
heard of it briefly, but no, I don't know the details as much as you may know it. So just preface that for you.
Okay, Jackson Buell had a condition called microanencephaly, where he was missing around 80% of his brain. And the person who actually posted the video just joined the live. Hello, honey. Honey, if you want to come up and explain this case better than me, you can, but I think I've got it all the details. And I believe the neural tube failed to close, and he had about 20% of his brain, from what I know. And it's generally considered, like, I don't want to say 100% because, like, there is some disagreement amongst the community, the scientific community, right? That these children aren't sentient, so they're not conscious, and they're never going to be. But suppose in the future we had a treatment that would allow a anencephalic human being to have a conscious experience. It would allow the rest of their brain to develop the necessary brain parts, and they will be conscious. But if we never give him the drug, the treatments, he will never be conscious. Suppose we had that treatment in the future, and Jackson has this condition, or another human being. Jackson's dead now. Would that biological human fetus, that human being, would they have a right to that treatment?
So you're saying, would they have a right to the treatment that
is making them not conscious forever? But if we give it them, they will be conscious. If we don't give it them, they'll never be conscious. Would Jackson have had a right to that treatment? Jackson lived to be about 5 years old, by the way. But would he have had a right to that treatment to help his brain defect?
So he has a brain defect that's making him unconscious. You're saying would he have a right to have basically something that makes him conscious or a medication of some sort that would make him conscious? Is that the point which you're trying to make?
Yep, this medication will allow the necessary brain parts to develop and he'll be good to go. However, if we don't give it him, he's going to be unconscious forever. Okay, he's going to never have conscious experience. Would he have a right to this treatment?
Um,
Or would he not have a right to it?
Again, I mean, I'm sure different countries have different rules on whether people deserve rights.
I'm asking you, do you think Jackson should have a right to this treatment for his brain?
Should he have a right for this treatment in his brain?
To fix his brain defect.
So, right to access that treatment?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Let me think, because I haven't seen this case, so I don't know the ins and outs of it. So.
Well, the conclusion would be that the child, under your view, doesn't deserve a right to the treatment because he isn't conscious, therefore he doesn't have rights. Now, I would say that's absurd. I would say Jackson is a human being that deserves the right for his treatment for his brain problem. But obviously, under your position, you would have to say Jackson didn't have a right to the treatment.
So you're saying he does have a right to the treatment?
I would say he does because he's a human being.
Sorry, how old is he?
So Jackson lived to be about 5 years old. I don't see why that's
He
obviously.
would have 20% of his brain, so he did have some sort of consciousness, right?
No, he had no consciousness.
None whatsoever.
None. According to, well, this is the argument. His parents say that he did exhibit signs of consciousness, but it's generally considered that these children aren't. And I'm granting you, for argument's sake, Jackson isn't conscious. Like, I'm granting that. Like, I don't mind, for argument's sake, just saying he isn't, he never will be. But would these anencephalic human beings have a right to the treatment to allow them to be conscious or not?
Well, I most likely said it'd be up to the parents or the mother as to whether she wants to have the child get the treatment, which I believe is already, especially in the UK, what we do already in terms of some treatments for children. It's the parents.
Would Jackson himself have the right to the treatment?
It depends on whether the parents or the mother or the parents want them to.
So the mother doesn't want to give Jackson his treatment. Is she doing any harm to Jackson?
You're saying she doesn't want to give him the treatment. If she doesn't decide it, then in that case, I wouldn't say she's doing any harm. It's up to her.
So she's not doing harm to Jackson when she refuses him that treatment?
Yeah, I would say she's not doing harm again. I believe it to be her choice, and whether if she was the caretaker or the caretaker in this scenario, especially since he'd be out of the body, whether they want to give him the treatment or not, which is what I believe we already do in the case of children.
No, we don't. Sometimes we can give children, like Honey mentioned, life-saving treatments even against the parents' will. Right, like if a child's starving to death, right?
Certain cases, but again, legality would not dictate morality. So again, in some legal scenarios, you're correct, but in many situations, the parents and mother do decide what treatments their children get.
Wait, just quickly, Leo, why did you mute? I'm sorry, Honey, I've just unmuted you. There you go. I don't know why Leo muted you. Sorry. Yeah. So just to clarify, so if Jackson's mom didn't give him the treatment to allow him to be conscious, she's not harming Jackson by refusing that treatment?
No, I wouldn't say she's necessarily harming him.
Okay, so no harm done to Jackson Buell in that case. Okay, well that's fine. I was just curious if you stance on that. What your response would be. All right. Well, I mean, you can have like a little close in before I do, because I am gonna end the live.
That's fine. No, I appreciate you coming on, debating. It was interesting. You gave me a couple things to think about, which I'd probably want to review more, which I absolutely will. Again, I've only watched a few things on the abortion, but I am looking into it more. It's quite interesting, so I do plan on debating it further. But again, just keep it short. I appreciate you coming on, and who knows, might debate in the future.